with Sonya.
Daughter.
Okay. What is even today? Today is what, Thursday? Oh my God.
Is it?
Yes, this week is going so fast. Oh, here's Sonya.
Tanji, we accessorized just for you today.
And I am just in the old sweats I woke up in.
Too much. All right, we're going to begin in 2 minutes. That will be 5 after the hour. So thank you for your patience.
Sorry about my technical delays. I'm here now.
Oh, you're good. We haven't started yet. I'm still waiting on Allison Million in terms of her calling in.
That is quite the outfit, Tyesha.
It's a big bow.
Good color on you.
It's literally it's not even a dress. It's definitely it's just a shirt that I saw in the store and I was like, this is cute.
It's fabulous.
2 minutes. Four days until voting opens. I'm very, very, very so excited about that. All right, 1 minute. Thank you everyone who has just joined. Please mute and turn off your video. Thank you.
Today was a good day at the airport, all positive.
I have to drop stuff off in Orlando still. There's still residual like Thanksgiving traffic. And so the last time I think I was in the airport area yesterday and it took me an hour and a half to get home. It was kind of obnoxious actually. I was like, oh, there goes a quarter of my tank. All right, do we have an Allison Million on the line yet?
I don't think she's there yet. I did text her and no, she read it. It says read, but I just got off the phone with her before I got on here.
Okay, all right. Well, I will keep an eye out on her. It is 1:05 p.m. We're going to be our town hall number 7, 12/02/21, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is our health and wellness town hall. So that's going to be everything as it regards to health and safety and wellness. We do have a few special guests that have joined us. They will be speaking later and will be introduced, and we are excited to hear from them. As a housekeeping note, we have decided to add a reserve special town hall that will be happening tomorrow, 12/03/21 at 10 a.m. Again, if you are especially 2 years or junior, or you are on reserve, there is a town hall that is especially, we've added this for you so that we can go over all things related to reserve so that you can gain clarity and understanding as it relates to our TA2. So that is our only housekeeping note that we have today. We're going to move on to article unpacking. Our first article is going to be Article 31, Health and Safety. That's going to be done by Stacy, our JFK negotiating team representative. Good afternoon, Stacy. If everyone else can mute.
Hi, everyone. So in a nod to health and safety, I actually wore my glasses today so I can stop losing my place in my notes. This is an article that's just a complete win for us. We really didn't have anything on this. So we're going to start out with the company and the union recognize the importance of health and safety. It is our #1 value. And this very first paragraph A establishes that we will have a health and safety committee and that we are guaranteed quarterly meetings. So that is huge. Moving down to C, upon request, the company will review with the committee aggregated data that will be redacted. So there will not be personal information in there. And that's going to go over occupational accidents, illness. So we're talking about OJIs, people getting sick from anything that might make them sick on the plane. And this seems small maybe, but it's really important because this gives us eyes on the OJIs and the illnesses that are going on. We're not going to be guessing. We're going to be tracking trends and problem areas. The next thing down is D, and the company will inform IFCs of potential environmental hazards of which the company is aware. Not for sure, but even potential. They have to tell us as soon as they're aware. If we find out down the line that they were aware and did not inform us and just close that information, we have a huge grievance there. And that's something new that, you know, we've never had that kind of power there and knowledge. Next down is air quality, temperature, contamination, and noise level. So that's, you know, how loud our planes are inside. What, you know, when we're having issues with freezing temperatures in the galleys, when there's known issues with contaminants in the air, and I think we all know what we're talking about there. If the government is doing a study on that, the company has to make that information available to us as they receive it. So they can't keep us from any knowledge of what the government is monitoring. The next thing down, G, that might need a little explaining is if an IFC encounters a large bodily fluids, blood, anything like that, it is not our job to clean it on the plane. Our job is to contain it so that it cannot spread, so that people cannot potentially become infected. We do not have to clean, we must contain. And then once we're on the ground, JetBlue will have procedures for how that is cleaned by anyone but us, essentially. Let's see, the next thing down that might be a question is the GO team. We're going to have 2 people designated to be available on the GO team. And that's when there's an incident or an accident. And we will have 2 people that go and assist with the families and the investigation, and we'll have eyes on that. Excuse me. We will also be meeting with the company to confer with any future galley design or cabin design studies that are going on. We can't be left out of that. And that gives us eyes in advance on any potentially detrimental changes, so we can hopefully head them off if we can see that they're going to be problematic. And again, we'll have time to grieve them if we are not meeting eye to eye with the company. Moving down to M, the IFC will not face reprisal for good faith reporting of safety concerns, operational concerns, hazards. This doesn't mean that you can refuse to fly. This means you can report a problem as you know of it. You can go to the union, you can go to the company, you can go to the FAA if you feel you need to, and you are not going to face any kind of punishment or retaliation for that. Within 6 months, the company and the union will be meeting to establish a letter of understanding. Those are our side letters that are on the back of the contract. On the ASAP and the CISM programs, and that's just, we're going to hit the ground running. We are going to make health and safety major priorities as soon as we get this contract ratified. Now, I know has been a question. I've gotten a few messages about that, and it says, in the case of a pandemic or declared health emergency, the company will comply with health and safety mandates issued by the CDC or other equivalent government agency. And what that's saying is it's something that we ask for to protect us, so that we'll be allowed to wear masks or gloves, even if they look scary to customers, or block middle seats if the government says we need to block middle seats to maintain social distance, or when Zika was an issue, if the US or even the local government of whatever country we're flying to says no pregnant flight attendants, that protects us from having to work in an unsafe environment. And that's just a few examples of how that works. So that's there to protect us. And then the last point is P, if the company becomes aware that an IFC has been exposed to a communicable disease while at work, the IFC will be notified as soon as practicable. And what does that mean? So a passenger, the government, whoever informs JetBlue that crew was exposed to something, the company can't wait a week to send that information out to the IFC. They have the means to look up the crew right away. They have the means to contact you right away. That they have to do so. It was practicable to do so. And if we find that they waited unnecessarily, again, we're going to have a grievance on the IFC's behalf. And so that is Article 31, Health and Safety.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy, for unpacking that article. We do have a special guest for this particular section of our town hall. We have on video and on screen Shane Rogers-Mauro. He is the Health and Safety Committee Chair for our soon to be hopefully local, and he's actually going to be talking with us for 5 to 7 minutes about the value of our health and safety committee as it relates to having a contract and what those differences are versus what we have now and what we could have with the ratification of the TA2. So I'm going to hand it off to Shane Rogers-Mauro. Welcome.
Thank you, Tyesha, very much. Thank you for all your work, all of you. You know, it's been a roller coaster of a ride these past few years, and we in-flight crew members, we continue to perform our duties brilliantly and effectively. Always, we're keeping in mind that safety is the #1 goal. There should never be any confusion that we are safety professionals first, using those tools that are given to us by, you know, just generations of safety enhancements in the industry. A lot of these were the result of hard work by our own coworkers and unions. And we all know that lessons from accidents are bought in blood, and we must seek all the answers to prevent the next one. That's always been the case. Your Safety and Health Committee is dedicated to doing just that. For the past few years, my team and I have worked to give you information and support that'll keep you safe and give you options and ensure that when you do go out on your trip, you'll always come home safely. That's our goal. We worked mostly as an advisory role without a signed contract, but the Health and Safety Committees helped our members on so many different levels, from short-term disability to issues regarding fume events, to the COVID-19 pandemic protections, to your security coming to and from work, just to name a few of those. We're always just a call away. We look forward to helping you in the future. And there's so much more that we can do, however, when we do have a signed contract, and I want to talk about that. It will give us a true seat at the table when deciding policies and procedures for our future. You can look at that very first section in Section 31 for health and safety, and you can see right there, we've got a seat at the table guaranteed with this binding agreement. We've been working for this, we've been waiting for this, and now we're going to have it. It'll give us the ability to enforce these protections that come with the binding agreement and access to information that has really been a challenge, but we'll have that, and this will change with a signed contract. Our in-flight crew members, we want you to be the most well-equipped safety professionals in the industry. We are the best, right? We will be when our focus is put 100% behind the job that we perform and the safety we provide to the customers and to each other. Let's not forget each other, because we are here for each other as well. These contracts are fluid documents. I've been in the industry for a few decades, you know, like some of you have, and we know that this is a tool for improving our lives and profession, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly getting better. And if ratified, our new binding agreement will ensure that we're heading in the right direction. It will also guarantee our ability to reach out to our goals collectively as opposed to individually. It's a lot harder to fight something by yourself than it is with 7,000 team members, and it's what we intend to do when we do have that contract. The days of this inconsistent policy, this will be replaced with a strong, clear policy that's black and white in our agreement. We'll have an enforceable agreement. It'll be protected from all these arbitrary changes. I'm excited for those better days coming, and I keep encouraging folks, better days are ahead, so just hang tight. I encourage you to consider this package as a whole and not just the individual parts when you're looking at when you're considering supporting the contract. When you consider those items which affect your health, safety, and security as an in-flight crew member, Remember that the committee is always here working for you and your success in delivering your special professional talents to make JetBlue the safest airline in the world. My Siri's going off in the background. Great. Let's see what it plays. We've been doing just that. We've been making JetBlue the safest airline in the world. We will continue to do so in the future. So there's a lot more that we can accomplish with health, safety, and security. We'll be standing right beside you in the days to come. We'll have your back as always. The first two sections of Section 31, to me personally, are the most important. They give us, Section A gives us a seat at the table. That's a great thing. We've not even been recognized by the company. However, some of the actions that we've participated in have been accepted right off the bat. So it was a pleasure to work for these items. Some of the things as an example are some of our COVID protocols. We were the first airline, as a matter of fact, to require masks for passengers. And so that was something that we pushed back in March, on March the 6th of 2020. So we started early with those protections, and company went right down the line and gave us just about everything we wanted, even though they don't recognize us. But that's going to change with a binding agreement. The second important part of that Article 31, to me, is Section B. Because if you just look at that first sentence, it says in-flight crew members will be provided safe equipment, working areas, and working conditions. That's a loaded statement. When you provide me with safe conditions, I expect to have clean air, I expect to have clean water, I expect to have a lot of safe conditions coming to work on my layovers. So that's a really strong, bold approach. And it may be up for interpretation, but that's why we have grievance. And grievance will fall to the side of safety sometimes, most of the times. And so those two things stuck out to me the most. I appreciate the work the committee did on the safety and health section 31. I think it's a very nice advancement, and we're always open to hear what our members have to say. If you have any suggestions, any comments, concerns, please reach out. You can reach out via the web. You can call our cells. We have a great, tight team, and our team is growing. You'll hear more about that a little later. And we look forward to being there for you. Anything you need, call us. And that's about all I have. Tyesha, I'll send it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Shane. That was Shane, the chair of our Health and Safety Committee for our B6 TW IFC work group. Our next article that we will be unpacking completely is going to be Article 27. That is our health insurance and retirement plan benefits. This article will be unpacked by Dee. This is, again, Article 27, page number 131, and I'm going to hand it off to Dee, Fort Lauderdale negotiating team rep. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyesha. And once again, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So I'm going to go over the article, Health Insurance and Retirement Plan Benefits. That's Article 27. So during the term of this agreement, in-flight crew members will be offered health plans, medical, prescription, drug, dental, and vision, and insurance plans such as disability and life that are the same or similar as those plans made available to all other JetBlue crew members except pilots. Eligibility to participate in the health and insurance plans outlined in this Article 27, paragraph A1, will be subject to meeting plan requirements. So this is a big win for us because by codifying this in our contract, JetBlue can no longer separate us as a group from any other employees, meaning that they cannot take away any part of our insurance or make us pay more or anything. They would have to make a change to the entire company that's covered by the same plan. So we are protected as a group from being discriminated against just because we are union and others are not union in our company. Then we can talk about retirement benefits. So during the term of this agreement, in-flight crew members will be eligible to participate in the company 401k plan as defined by the plan. Once again, that it allows us, it's a win, it's codified language in our contract that they cannot separate us out from any other group. They cannot offer us less than they are offering the others. And frankly, they would have to take away everybody's profit sharing or ability to not profit sharing, everybody's 401k plan if they weren't going to give it to us. So we will always get at least the same as everyone else, and we will not be separated out as a group. Now we can talk about profit sharing. It's the same. If it's provided to other crew members by the company, a profit sharing program will also be available to in-flight crew members and defined by the company. So although you may not see the benefit in this language, it is definitely a win because they cannot take away from our group, as we have noticed they have done in the last year. Bits here, bits there. Oh, in-flight crew members don't get this, blue bucks, this, that, whatever. No longer can that happen. That's all I have to say.
And thank you, Dee. Dee is our Fort Lauderdale negotiating team representative. She just unpacked Article 27, health insurance and retirement plan benefits. Our next article, we have two more that we're unpacking for our health and wellness town hall session that we're having today, is our medical examinations, article number 32. That is going to be unpacked by Sonya. Sonya is our Boston negotiating team representative. You can find Article 32 on page number 155 in your TA2 hymnals, and I'm going to pass it to Sonya of Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyesha, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for this health and safety-based town hall. So I'm going to be talking about article number 32, which is the medical examinations. This is a very important article, as are all of them, but especially when dealing with your fitness for duty. To clarify a few things, this is not like a pilot's medical exam, a pilot's medical license. This is very different. They have other parameters. This is basically saying that something has happened to you that possibly is prohibiting you from doing your job as you have previously. It's hard to give a lot of examples because we're all so different, and anyone can have a health condition that is unique in the way it presents itself to you, but this could be something as memory loss. As we continue to age, there may be some degenerative memory or cognitive problems that arise, or it could be a physical disability or something that is prohibiting you from being able to do the physical aspect of the job. How this would come to the company's light? Well, I mean, we are always working. We're visible in the airport. We're visible during our recurrent training. It could also happen where a coworker is very concerned. They're working with you, and maybe you're acting kind of out of sorts, talking about things that are not normally subjects you would talk about. A silly example we were discussing earlier was like, you're sitting here talking about that you're flying like a bird and flapping your wings while walking down the aisle. I mean, these are ridiculous, but there could be something larger at hand that's of concern. We don't want anyone to put themselves or each other or the passengers in harm's way while working. So what this would be is that the company would come and say to you, present whatever the issue is that they are concerned about. You would be sent to a company provided medical examiner first. You would be removed from your trips and pay protected until that exam has taken place. Once the results of the exam are found and presented to you, if it's in your favor, you'll be returned to the line, and again, pay protected for anything. If the issue is brought to light through the medical examiner, you have an opportunity to now go see a medical examiner of your own. So a company provided one, the results are not favorable, you can now go see a medical examiner of your choice. If those findings are the same, the issue will stand, and other discussions will take place after that. If the results of the medical exam from the examiner of your choosing disagree from the one from JetBlue, those two examiners will then agree on a neutral examiner, and the IFC will then once again for a third exam have that issue checked out, for lack of a better term. The results of that third exam are the results that would stay. So again, if it's in favor of the IFC, you're returned back to the line, pay protected for anything you may have lost during that time. If the findings do agree with the company examiner, situations then would present themselves after that. There are some tight timeframes in there, so this is not a long drawn out process. Once you have the exam, there's 15 days for them to get, there's a certain period of time, then you would have 15 days to say that you'd like to have that exam done by your own examiner. And then after that, there's another tight time for the third person to examine you. So they don't want to have a long drawn out thing. There are some tight controls in here. This does exist in quite a few contracts, even though we've never seen anything like it before. It's not really cause for concern. Again, it's actually here to protect the IFC. So if there is something that may present itself strangely, does not necessarily mean that you cannot accomplish your job in the way that you always have before. It's just something that perhaps maybe just needs to be checked out and would be beneficial to you down the road as well. So that's medical exams, article number 32. Thank you, Tyesha.
All right, thank you, Sonya, for unpacking that article. We are now going to open the chat for anyone who has any questions as it relates to health and safety, especially this special section, and anything that needs clarity or understanding as it relates to our TA2 article. So that chat is now open. Please make sure that when you're asking the question that you also are clear and concise with what you are wanting as it relates to the need of the understanding and clarification in the questions that you have. So we're going to move on, though. We have one more article to unpack. That's going to be article number 33, union security. That's going to be done by Brendan. That is in your hymnals, page 157, article 33, union security. Brendan is our LAX negotiating team rep. I'm going to hand it to Brendan. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Tyesha. And thanks for hosting the call as always. And I'll say good morning for all my left coast people. You know, we aren't to the afternoon yet, so we'll save our hours. But yeah, union security, article 33 is another brief article, but certainly a very important one to the strength of our local union. Once we ratify our agreement, we will be establishing our local union made up of all JetBlue flight attendants. And as a member of our union, we will be proudly able to pay our dues that will ensure that our local union has the resources and the financial wherewithal to be an effective, strong fighting union. And those dues go towards enforcing our contract, maintaining the ability to represent all of our in-flight crew members in a way that honors their work. And our union security article is one of the more important articles in our agreement that provides our local union the ability to do so. And so what the article is concerning is the most focused on is what is called dues checkoff language. And so once we have our contract ratified, we will all be signing dues checkoff cards, and that allows for our dues to be payroll deducted from our paychecks and go directly to our local union, so that, again, our union is strong financially and able to do the work that we will be needing to do. Because as we say, all of the real hard work starts once the contract is ratified and we get to be a union and work as a union and work together as union members to enforce our contract and improve our work lives as a result of being union members protected by our contract. So you'll see in Article 33, the dues checkoff form that we'll all be able to fill out once we've ratified the agreement. And I will just say, there is, dues are always you know, to some people a touchy subject, but for me, dues are what makes our union strong. And I will be, just personally, I will be proud to pay my dues to make sure that my union can represent me in the best way possible. I think that covers what needs to be covered from the union security article. So I appreciate that, Tyesha. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Brendan, for unpacking Article 33, Union Security. That concludes our article unpacking for this special health and safety and wellness town hall. We are now going to move on to our section, items to clarify and correct. We have two more special guests that I am placing in that category. This is as it relates to the scheduling committee and that language that is in our TA2. We have today Tanji Garcia and Allison Million. They are going to be speaking on the scheduling committee, what they can and cannot do, the empowerment and powers that they have as it relates to our TA2. So I'm going to hand the session off to them. Welcome, Tanji and Allison.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, thanks for having us. As far as the scheduling, it basically, as of now, we just look, if you have problems with bidding, we can help you and we can help you understand your award, and that's basically it. We used to have the ability to look at pairings before they were posted, before bids open, and look for any discrepancies, be it with turn time. For instance, if you're going from international and you have to go through customs and continue on to a domestic flight, we need to make sure that there's the correct amount of turn time. Again, my example is there is one Cancun trip that we have recently had where the company made the report time the exact same as the departure time to avoid having you work 14 hours on paper, but you 100% were going to work 14 hours. Only a few people caught that before they actually flew it. So things like that. We that are on the scheduling committee now have been involved with scheduling for years. I know Ali and I came on in 2008, and Dana and Tina were already on. So we've been looking at pairings and awards for years. So our eyes normally will catch something like this, and we're always like, why didn't anyone catch it? And I'm not saying crew planning is not doing their job or anything. It always helps to have a second set of eyes or 5 extra sets of eyes on this, because they're just looking at numbers over and over. We will have the ability to look at it. We have 48 hours. It doesn't take us that long at all to basically point out any discrepancies or anything awkward that we see. We take your feedback from each base, move it on if you would like to see. Some people like productivity, some people like layovers, some people like other things. We just need to realize that all pairings are made together, and one little change in the pairing set affects all pairings throughout all bases. So we will have that. Hopefully we will have, we'll be part of, I believe one of us will be part of a PBS team. So we'll have that training new hires how to use any of the scheduling tools that they need, instead of just going straight out, not knowing anything, and then for life messing up their bids. And so that's basically what we would be doing. It just gives us a little bit more teeth than just looking at it and saying, well, sorry. So we have just more meetings with leadership to communicate the wants of our crew members, and definitely we don't want this aspect of bidding. Ali, do you want to add anything else? Well, Ali died, so it's just us. Yeah, so basically that you do
I can't figure out my
Right. Yeah.
camera,
We
but
should figure out bids though.
anyway, yeah, basically everything that you said there. It also gives us the opportunity to come in every month and, you know, if we don't like that first pairing set that comes down from group planning, I think there's language in there that, you know, we'll have one designated person, to the chair, and then another person, I believe it says, that can then run alternate pairing sets and see if we can come up with something a little bit different and a little bit better that meets the crew members' needs more so than the companies, without adding, you know, extra cost. Because right now what's happening is, you know, it's just the flight segments come in, they all get shoved into the pairing optimizer and it spits out something. And as long as it hits a certain number, that's it. There's no quality of life going into the pairing sets currently. So with a contract being voted into place, it brings the scheduling team back and gives us the ability to have a little bit more say, which has been missing for quite some time. Especially if you look at January, Jesus. And especially now with, you know, coming back from the pandemic and how many pairings are getting added, and there's, you know, last minute schedule changes. And you've seen for the last 3 or 4 months that bids have been, pairings have been recalled a couple of times because of mistakes like Tanji mentioned, you know, different things that weren't caught that should have been caught. And just having a team of people being there that are looking out for things that matter to us, it's so valuable. We've been missing that for so long. And
Scene.
All right. So that was Tanji and Allison as it relates to our what would be our in-flight scheduling committee. As a housekeeping note, what they were referring to, the page 27, section E, for the company shall provide the ISC chairperson. So there is an ISC chairperson as it relates to the scheduling committee. And then there also is an in-flight PBS work group that also is codified in our contract. And they will also be, as they said, dealing with the classroom education as it relates finally to bidding, because we do know that as of right now, our new hires are not being trained in how to bid. And so thank you, Tanji and Allison, for phoning in and being on this health and safety town hall to also give us clarification as it relates to our scheduling committee. We're going to move on to our pools from submitted questions from the website. And these questions, the first one is from Sienna. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. They are asking about state leave programs, specifically Massachusetts. We can call out UML and not have PTO deducted since the state is paying us. Under the TA, it is stated, and they're talking about the Family and Medical Leave, and IFC will be granted leave in accordance with the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 as amended. And IFC on FMLA must use his PTO, BPTO in accordance with Article 24, for time missed. And this question is going to be given to Ernesto to answer. Good morning or good afternoon, Ernesto. Ernesto is our Orlando-based negotiating team rep. Is Ernesto here? Yeah, he should be here.
Mic check 1 2. All right. Yeah, I believe you said name was Sienna. Yeah, right. Sienna. Thanks for the question, Sienna. Actually, and well, in a situation like this, local, state, and/or federal laws always take precedence, unless that's something that's specifically waived or carved out in the contract. There's actually currently there's challenges to local and state laws concerning sick laws, which are progressing through the courts. So the TW, Department of Government Affairs, is closely monitoring both legislation and legal challenges to benefit our members. So in a situation like this, you need not worry. It works the same, I believe. Maybe Brendan can correct me with KinCare out in Cali. So yeah, I hope that eases you a bit with that.
All right, thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Ernest. I don't know why I said Brendan. So that concludes that with that question. Our second question is from Victor. Is there any plans to lower the out-of-pocket fee? Will the deductible be reduced to lower standards since our MS are so high in regards to health insurance? I'm going to hand that off to Dee, I believe. Dee is answering that question. Thank you.
So as we spoke about today in our unpacking of our insurance plans, this is a company plan and it's administered to all JetBlue employees who are not directors and above. So the gentleman in charge is Harry Spencer. He's the vice president in benefits, compensation, and total rewards. Harry is the one that reviews the current plans with his staff, and he makes the recommendations based on cost and the level of care for what the health care plans for all employees will be. So as a group, we don't really have control over lowering the deductibles. It would have to be done overall for the entire company that's covered under this plan.
All right, thank you, Dee. And it looks like we have nothing as it relates to polls from our previous town hall. So we are gonna now go through any questions that were asked in our live chat that can actually be answered in this session. If it can't be answered in this session and the negotiating team requires a little bit more time to research and gather information for a more complete and concise answer, it will be rolled over into our next town hall, which officially will be on the 5th, not the 3rd. The 3rd is reserved for our reserves. So questions about reserves will be there unless a random other question happens, but we are reserving that specific session for reserves and reserve related questions. So our first question, which I think may also be answered possibly by Shane. So with fume events, are we going to be able to have our health and safety team with us in meetings? In the past, they were not allowed. I'm going to hand that off to whoever wants to answer that, whether you are a negotiating team member or a health and safety expert. Thank you.
I'll let Shane take it, but the quick answer is yes, we will have a union rep in any meeting with management that we would like to have. If you have a meeting with management, you will have the right to have a union representative with you to represent you. Shane, add if you see fit.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Article 20 is the area where it states that we're allowed to have someone with us in any investigative meeting. And not only are we allowed to have someone at the meeting, including fumes or any other type of investigation, but we also have the ability to let that person interact as opposed to just sit there and observe and take notes, which is a great thing because a lot of our in-flight crew members don't want to, or they don't feel comfortable interacting with the company lawyers or whomever they're talking with, corporate security or whatever, what have you. And there is also 21, I believe it's a 21-day cutoff for that as well. So at 21 days after the event, they've got to have that investigative meeting or else there's not going to be one from what I read. So there are some restrictions on the company with that, but it's great to have that that person with you. We fought to get, apparently I wasn't part of this negotiation, but we fought to get fumes events involved in the MOU that we have for peers. And the company just said, absolutely not. We don't want anyone to know about this. I mean, as well as I think sexual harassment charges, the first incident of investigation or something. So those two things were eliminated, but this will change everything. This will allow us to have trained union reps there on your side to support you.
All right, thank you for that. Our next question comes from Naisha Ellis. This question states, will you have the opportunity to review reserve lines for qualified roles and ask questions about reserve line bid construction prior to the release of awards. Does anyone want to answer that? I think Tanji or Sonya. Sonya is raising her hand, so Sonya can go first. If anyone wants to go after her, they can do that. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Tyesha. So I think maybe we might need a little bit more clarification on the question. If you are a qualified role IFC and we always bid for our reserve days the month before. So you would bid for your reserve days, no matter what your seniority level is, for the 3, 4, 5, or now a 6-day block of reserve. Those are awarded to you before the monthly bid opens. So you would go into, let's say, for instance, we just received our reserve day award for January a day or two ago. The monthly bid is opened. When you open your bid for January, those days are already blocked. So you would bid your trips like normal, or if you were a full reserve, you would then just continue to bid for your days off at that point. So if you think you're going to hold a full reserve line, you would have the reserve block already blocked off, your ZRB or ZRV days, and then you would have your reserve days awarded to you on top of that. So they're not really understanding where there would be a discrepancy in a reserve line bid, because you would just be getting additional core reserve days on top of that. So I'm not sure, Tanji, if I'm reading it differently, please back me.
I think Naisha's asking this question and she has her hand up. Can we get more clarification from her?
So it looks like what she is talking about, thank you for everyone muting. It looks like what she possibly could be talking about, and she can type out that clarification. If not, we can unmute her.
Okay.
But it looks like what she's talking about is how they do reserve bid, how they do reserve numbers, like they do core. Are they going to be looking at that, how they do with core reserves as it relates to qualified roles? So is the in-flight scheduling committee going to be able to look at the reserve numbers for qualified roles, even possibly before the bid opens to them, to see whether or not proper staffing as it relates to the reserve numbers that they need is adequate, if that makes sense?
Where did you get the rest of that?
Because I saw it in another group.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. A lot of that would have made a little more sense, but okay. Thank you, Tyesha.
When crew planning figures out the amount of reserve need, I know that like in the T8 has like a 12%. They just kind of figure this is how much we're going to need is based on, oh my gosh, and this will be, we base it on like who's on vacation, who's like who's on crew flex, there's so many things that go into it. Now I know it'll be, if this TA goes into effect, it will be a little bit different once we get the reduced schedule in there, because that's now it's going to be a month-to-month thing when they project how many reserves are going to be needed. So I don't know like how it pertains like to qualified roles, because it's just kind of we all get it except for the lucky 12%. Other than that, but I feel like I need to one-on-one this question with her.
Right.
But yes, I would like an example. Yes, if you have one.
So I'm gonna unmute.
I see her typing.
I'm gonna unmute Naisha. She's gonna give an example and also type it out. And with the fact that if we can't answer it in this session, that's gonna be honored, and it's gonna be answered either one-on-one or sent out in a public release. So I'm gonna unmute her at this time.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to explain the question in more detail, because I can see that I wasn't good at clarifying or posting it, so my apologies there. So yesterday when we received our mid-reserve award, I always go through and look at, out of all the scenarios that I posted, I think I gave like 16 choices, and I go back and look at which one was my choice and where I fell at. There are a couple of lines, 7 of them, that they only constructed for one person to sit reserve. And if we don't have a seat at the table with crew planning to understand why they're building reserve lines with one person, we're never going to gain the full flexibility that we once had, because our grid can never be green. it like can never be green. So it kind of made me think of your Cancun example where they had the departure and the report time the same. Like, is it, maybe it was an oversight that they have these lines with just one person. And so if there's a trip that overlaps on that day, no one will ever be able to drop it. So I'm just wondering, will we have a seat at the table the same way you can look at pairing? Will you be able to look at reserve lines, especially for qualified roles, since we have to meet a minimum number of trips, and we're going to have less flexibility as we increase the number of reserve days once the 12% doesn't have to sit reserved. It's only going to make the grid more rigid, if that's clear.
So the lines that we bid for Mint for OB or MS and OBL reserve and transatlantic, those lines, we're talking about those lines?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And so for instance, 4 people got line 4 and whatever. So we're talking about certain reserve blocks, only one person is getting that particular, those dates, that block.
Correct. So there were 7.
Okay.
Yeah, there were 7 line reserve blocks that only one person was awarded it. So therefore, the question is, why are we building reserve lines for just one person?
One person,
Meaning
okay.
we'll never have flexibility.
Right. I would say yes, because then that is something like even right now, like that's just a question, like, so we need to understand why, what's the reason behind this, you know, because it might be a very valid reason while there's only one, or it might not be. But as right now, scheduling, we can always ask crew planning that same question and get an answer. But yes, if we actually scheduling has a seat at the table with speaking with them, we can then say, okay, for instance, with Naisha's example, we have no flexibility because there's only the one person on this line. Like, why is that? What else can we do? It's the same thing like when Ali was describing how we do the pairing runs. When we can compare 2 and 2, and if one gives us a better quality of life as opposed to the other, but you know, it's well within like the cost, then yeah, we can make that suggestion, like a strong suggestion. So the same thing, if we can figure out, okay, well, how can we push, you know, some others to this reserve block here and make it, you know, so everyone has like that fair, what am I saying? Like a fair chance of trying to drop it. So yes, we will be able to have that dialogue with crew planning ahead of time when we're talking about reserve and pairing.
So
And I just didn't see.
just to clarify what is being asked on page 27, section E, number 3, at the request of the ISC chairperson, the company shall provide the ISC chairperson with the following reports within 30 days of the request. That includes issued and versus utilized RSAs and reserve utilization by base. So as in an OBL for JFK, I am part of the JFK base, and reserve those reports can be given 30 days, within 30 days of the request, which also allows them an additional seat at the table, not just for the current month, but any previous months. They can also pull that report and bring it to the current month, stating this previous month, based on the report you sent me on these reserves, this is the feedback that we got from our work group, and this is the feedback that we got from our scheduling committee. So this actually has been codified in many layers if you want to look at page 27. And with that being said, we have 5 minutes left on this town hall. If we need additional clarification or more, more information as it relates to how do we play out this policy, because a lot of these questions that many people are asking is not actually about the TA, it's about how does this policy run. Those questions can be asked again on another town hall, and we can actually expound upon what that action looks like when enacting a policy. So we're going to move on. We need to do another clarification. I'm going to bring on Thom McDaniel. Thom McDaniel is our international VP for TWU. He has to issue he is issuing a clarification, and I'm going to bring him on. If Thom, you want to finally turn on your video and also unmute. Thank you.
Hi, Tyesha and everybody. It's not really a clarification. It's just an expansion of the question on whether or not a state, federal, local law would trump the contract or what would be in effect. So we always have to be in compliance with any state, federal, or local law. And what we find often is that these local municipalities get pressure from the airlines to carve out flight attendants or airline workers. And we have a very active legislative group. In fact, we have people involved at JetBlue who are involved in it, who are working to make these laws more fair and apply to airline workers. Several years ago, flight attendants went to Capitol Hill and got an exemption filed so that we would have a lower number of hours to be able to qualify for FMLA, because we don't work regular 9-to-5 jobs. But even more importantly, recently in Illinois, they passed a law to allow airline employees all employees in Illinois to use their paid sick time to take care of a family member. And then a week later, based on pressure from United Airlines and some of the legacy carriers up there in Chicago, they carved out airline employees from that. We had a bunch of amazing flight attendants, mostly from Southwest, Local 556 TW, who went to Illinois and spent 2 years getting this law changed. And just a few weeks ago, it was changed with the help of our governmental affairs department in TW, and also a very, very strong advocate for this, Corliss King, who's our VP over at Local 556, to go to the state of Illinois and get a law passed that is going to impact 50,000 airline employees. So the law is always going to trump what's in our contract, but that's why we need to make sure that we're part of making those laws and making sure that we're included and making sure that we're protected. And our team in DC, working with our local state conferences and our local presidents and our local executive boards, is killing it right now to make sure that flight attendants are being protected in every way, from air quality to violence on the aircraft, to, our president, John Samuelson, has testified before Congress. But the laws do overrule our contract, but we have the ability to be able to affect those laws to make sure that we're speaking with one voice to protect our workers. And thank you. I'm so glad that TW has that. And I'm so glad that we've had some really good advocates from JetBlue helping too. So.
Perfect. It is 1:59. I'm going to give you back 1 minute of your time from this town hall. We thank everyone for coming. Shane, really quick as a housekeeping note, ask how can members ensure they are registered to vote. If you are receiving TW emails, more than likely you are registered to vote. If you have any questions as to whether or not you either A, aren't receiving emails, B, aren't registered, please reach out to either a negotiating team member or a TAP steering member, and we can look you up in our systems to ensure that we have an email address for you, of which can be the notification that you are registered to vote. Thank you for that question, Shane. And I am going to happily end that meeting with that at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I wish everyone a good afternoon, and to those on the West Coast, a wonderful morning. Have a great day.